All right, so for the first part, this is going to be how we make the circuit blocks. Now, you're going to have these done ahead of time. If I'm working with younger kids, I would have these built for the younger kids. I wouldn't actually do this with younger kids. By that, I mean like kindergarten, first grade, second grade. You work at your own discretion. But as you get these out involved with older kids, have them experiment and tinker, and then it would be awesome to have them go out and actually make their own. So what we're going to do is I'm going to take this block here, and we're going to start the battery pack. And so what we're going to be doing is basically hot gluing this battery pack onto this brick or this block, and then we're going to wrap these wires around the nails, and we're going to nail these wires in. We're going to solder them in, and then the nails are what the alligator clips are going to connect to. So how we're going to do this is really rather simple, guys. I'm just going to nail in a nail right here. And another one right here. Make sure those are in there nice and good. We're in good shape there. Now, I've got this battery pack here, and so I want to get this with these wires. I don't want it too loose, and so I like to make it where it looks pretty nice and pretty sharp. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to clip these wires, I'm going to strip them, and then we're going to wrap the wire around. So I'm just going to take my wire strippers here. I'm just going to strip these bad boys. Pretty close there. And then I'm actually just going to take this, I'm going to wrap this wire around. Just so we got a good connection there. And then I'm going to wrap this wire around. Doesn't have to be too precise. And I like to get it as close down to the bottom as I can. Just like so. And we'll hot glue it on here in a minute. Then I'm going to take my solder iron. And we're going to solder the wire to the bottom of the nail. Just make sure we have a nice good connection there. So let me get into a position where you can see a little bit better here. There we go. That way my hand's not blocking the whole thing. And I'm just going to go here, and I'm just going to solder all around the bottom, really, and just form a nice soldered connection here around the nail. This is a good way to start teaching kids how to solder a little bit. This is not a very good solder job, but you get the idea. Okay. That's going to hold that connection. And then your wires, I could either cut them or I could just glue them. I'm just going to glue it just like this right on the board. And so I'm going to get my hot glue here. Just going to stick some down here on this board. Just like so. Get my wires the way I want them. Press that down. Might just fill this in with just a little bit more, make sure it has a good seal. And I'm also going to put some hot glue around this nail. This is going to be, because the kids are going to tug on this as you mess with the alligator clips and get things going. And so you could also just do these wires as well, just to hold them down into place. So the more strength you have, that way you don't have to worry about the wires breaking and tugging and pulling, because you know kids are not always the most sensitive to these things. So I like just to put a coat of hot glue. I know it's not pretty, but it works. And it'll hold it all in place and be able to handle a lot of resistance. So there's that. I'm just going to stick a little bit more over here. You can do this however you want. This is a little overkill to glue, I know. I know. But I love hot glue. And so I like to use it for everything. So I'm just going to seal this base all the way around. Just like so. So I'm going to let that dry. And then you can see here, I've just got the hot glue sealed around the wires, around the nail, and then the battery pack is going to hold it all in place pretty good. So we're going to create one more. So this here, a AA battery is 1.5 volts. So this is a 3 volt. I would also have some that maybe have 4 AA batteries. Just other various battery packs, because some of these are going to require more than 3 volts of power. So there's that one. And then while that's waiting to dry, let's go ahead and see if we can get a light to go on here. So I'm going to grab, let's see here what I can grab. Let's grab one of these little lights. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and stick on one of these lights. You can nail these in, you can hammer them in, whatever you'd like to do. The key here is that we need some wire that actually connect. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to add our nails. Add one more in here. There we go. All right, then we're going to cut some wire. So we've got some wire right here. So I'm going to go ahead and just measure this, and you can put this wherever. So I'm just going to cut 2 pieces, roughly the same length here. Then we're going to go ahead and we're going to strip the ends here, just about I don't know, maybe a 1/2 inch or so, just so you have enough to make these connections. So this is just some junk wire that I found. So we got that there. Go ahead and strip this one, and we'll strip this one here. Perfect. Okay, so now this one here, if you look at this particular one, and I'll have a link in the show notes, we got 2 screws here. So we're going to loosen these up. There's actually, the nut is back under here. So we just got to make this just a little loose so we can get the wire around it. We don't want to take it all the way apart. So I'm going to go like that, loosen them up. And then I'm just going to wrap this wire around. There we go. And then just tighten that right back up. Hopefully that sticks and gets nice and tight. Oh, let me go again here. I got out of place. Okay, so once you get the wires around the screws, you can see what I did. It's a little sloppy, but you guessed it, covered it in hot glue just so those don't come loose when these kids work and tug and mess with those. So I just put just a big old blob over it. It just kind of acts as a seal, just kind of holds it all into place. It's not going to hurt anything. I'm just going to goop that on there. And then the next step I'm going to do, so I've got my block here. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to screw in, make sure my wires reach, and they do. I'm going to screw this in. So I've got a screwdriver, and I just went out and grabbed just 2 generic screws, if I can find them. Here they are. So just as long as they're big enough to hold down. This is obviously stuff that kids can do. So you could use a power drill if you wanted. I'm just going to do it by hand here real quick. Screw this in. Obviously a power drill would be a lot faster. We'll get the other screw in. And what I'm doing is a couple things that I think is pretty important for you to think about while you're doing this work is, before you screw this in, you obviously want to test it. So I've tested to make sure that the light actually works. I've tested it with the battery pack. And so I didn't show that here in the video, but I hope that you would realize that you would test all this before securing it. So each step of the way, as I put the wires in, I would connect it to a battery pack and make sure the light would light up. I hot glue it, I check it with the battery pack to make sure it's still working. If I solder, I check to make sure my connections are good. And so it's always good to check, because you'd hate to do all this work, have it not work, and then have to take it all off. So let's go ahead and get this on here, wrapped around these nails, then we should be in business. So we'll go ahead and wrap this around. Sometimes it helps to have these little needle nose pliers. Just be careful not to cut them. And just kind of wrap this wire around and around. Solder these guys on, make sure there's a good connection. Really important you don't breathe in the solder fumes. It's not good for you. And I'm just gooping this on strong. If I was soldering circuit boards, I would not go this messy or this fast, but we just want a good old connection pile down here. Okay. And the last thing is I got my battery pack here. I got my LED lights. So now we get our alligator clips. They should clip, and we should have power. Let's see if it works. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and add our alligator clips. So just nail to nail, and now you're gonna be able to start to see like why this could be so awesome for kids. So hopefully, let's pray that it works. Let's pray that it works. Boom! We got it working. We got a light. We have power. All right, so this is what kids can do. They can create their own. These are like supercharged, bigger versions of Little Bits, right? Like, so we could definitely make these things happen with the kids. And so now we can start to create all sorts of different kind of circuits and switches and all sorts of different kind of things that we could use here with our devices to make things come to life. So I'm gonna get back to figuring out why I just lost connection here. And we're gonna make some more of these and see what else can we create along the way. All right, guys. These are how we make circuit boards. Let's make some more. Let's dive in and let's get these kids making these, interacting with these, and talk about how this could be impactful in the makerspace in your classroom or just at home. All right, guys, stay awesome. All right, guys, so just to show you, it does work. I know my light went out in the previous video. I think I just had a bad bulb in the delivery. So we are in business. It's right there. It's rocking. It's a rolling. That's how we make our circuit boards. How cool is this? Now next up I'm going to make some other things. I got some other light posts. I have what's called a knife switch. So we're going to take a look at that next. I want you to, before I get into this, let's think about some other things. What are things that we could put onto the board? I'd love to hear your ideas. Leave some feedback. Ask me questions. And let's start to make our own awesome collection of circuit boards that we could use with kids before we get into the other applications. All right, guys. Take 5. Ha ha!